Hi, I'm Eve with Sanctum at Eve. And today, one of the things that I want to talk about is how to look at our wonderful 2025 and our wonderful 2026 in a way that's expansive. The reason that I'm writing these I Ching predictions and the work that I'm doing on Substack is as a tool. What we are looking at is mindset and how it is that we can move the mindset, change how we are perceiving our reality to one that is more expansive rather than one that is constricting for us. For example, in 2025, the energy, a lot of it was excavation. And what I mean by excavation is looking at your true intentions and whether or not your intentions are in alignment with your purpose and your reason for being here. Why your soul asked you to come back. When you look at your intentions with the purpose and with the desires that you have in your heart for what you would like for yourself and your family, you were seeing the aspects that need to be shed. Thus, the year of the snake, about shedding. Aspects that may need to be shed could be fears that you're holding that are creating a distance between yourself and the thing that it is that you want. Because whenever we're in fear, we have created a blockage against that thing that we want. We have created in our mind an avenue. In our mind, it's not a block. In our mind, it's an avenue towards suffering over not being able to manifest or access whatever it is that we want, whether it's the energy of joy and happiness and abundance, or a person, or going to have an experience. So your fears can really create this sense of punishment. 2025 was looking at where are you out of balance within yourself and within your reality and how you're perceiving the reality. If those are incongruent, then you were invited to come into balance. Another thing that came up a lot last year as you were looking at where your life is and what's going on and what needs to be shed is who you're surrounding yourself with. That could be anything from the type of job that you are doing to the types of friends that you have and where you want to put your focus of nurture. The last thing that we were really looking at in 2025 was how do you use energy? How do you understand timing? And the invitation of 2025 was to deeply learn that sense of timing. How does the snake know when to go to sleep? How does it know that it's time to shed? It doesn't know, it just does it. It's intuitive. It's a natural movement of energy through time and space. So, one of the things that has occurred since we have created this system of management of time for the day, we have 24 hours in a day, we have 7 days a week. All of that is arbitrary. We could have 20 days a week, we could have 1 day a week. It's just driven by a cultural agreement to perceive time in this specific way. Energy doesn't have the same cultural agreement. It is moving in its own time, in its own framework, which means that the new year is not always the new year, the way that we have defined it. January 1st is what I'm talking about when I say the new year. Energetically, the new year could be anywhere from the second to third week of January to the middle of February or the end of February. It's dependent on the movement of the energy. And so we have this false sense of change that is not necessarily supported with the way that the world works energetically. And that then creates, I don't want to say suffering, but it creates a dissonance that we can feel because we think we should be doing something because we know it's the new year and we know we should be moving in one way or another, but we end up doing something else, like we're resting because it's winter and that's what we should be doing. And we should be waiting for spring to actually arrive. That's when we start the planning and we start the doing and we plant the seeds for what we're going to do and nurture in the next year. That's the role of early spring. Why we're trying to plant the seeds in December and in January, early January, like the first, second, and third is crazy making, really. because that energy isn't there yet. And who you are at that time period when you're still in deep rest, then who you're going to be at the end of that deep rest may be two different types of people, two different types of energies with two different goals and focuses. Why would you use the one that you no longer are to run the rest of the year? So last year, 2025, the year of the snake, was helping us to learn how to feel into the energy, when to notice that there are changes happening. These changes may have been, for example, recognizing when the actual new year was coming, recognizing when summer was happening, recognizing when the energy shifted in fall. It may or may not have been around the time of the leaves. Often it is because it matches that natural cycle, but sometimes it doesn't. So, understanding energy, feeling energy of the collective a little bit more was what we were learning in 2025. We were shedding off the layers that are keeping us from fulfilling our purpose. Those layers may be people, they may be places, they may be jobs, they may be event circumstances, et cetera, et cetera. All of this was important because as we move into 2026, the nature of 2026 is to actually release power structures that don't serve our highest good. And to do that, we are in a collective energy. We have gathered together in new groups of people that are continually forming, and we are challenging the structures. There will be a great change that occurs during this time period because we're looking at the reality of the world, what is everybody's common experience, the reality of it, not the common experience you see on Instagram or Facebook or whatever that is completely arbitrary and probably a chatbot, right? Not even a human creating this AI world. So the actual world versus the AI or the matrix and your ideology. Those two are something that could be potentially an area of growth and development for everyone. Because as you begin to see the world as it is, you see how you are out of alignment with a lot of what's going on. Sometimes when we hold firm to our ideology, because it's our belief system, it's how we were raised, it's the things that feel like we have meaning and focus because we believe in a certain way. But that belief is inherited and chosen, and it can be disinherited, examined, and unlearned. So, if your belief system is causing you an extraordinary amount of suffering and causing others an extraordinary amount of suffering, is that the best belief system? Is that really where you want to be putting your time and your attention? What is it that could be created from the super naive place of love and light? How is it that we can support each other in community in ways that are uplifting, that are not tearing other people down, that are allowing ourselves as humans to thrive? What could that look like? Because none of the power systems that we have right now are in accordance with that. So, the other thing that we have in 2026, you are going to need for this year to have systems in place. If you don't already have systems in place to help you with basic things like accounting, your taxes, managing the financial flow in and out, what all that looks like, and keeping them up to date this year is really going to be hard because it's going to be moving so fast without those systems. You're going to feel like you're never caught up. You're going to feel like you're getting left behind. And in some ways, you may be left behind. So, this is a year of learning. It's going to be fast paced. There's going to be a lot of rapid change in technology, medicine, and AI. If you embrace that, and if you move towards that, it's going to be easier than if it's resisted. Let's see what else is on our year. Integrity. And by integrity, of course, that means honesty and truthfulness, but integrity is also alignment with purpose, alignment with love, and doing things from a place of loving compassion. That is integrity. If you are put in a role of leadership in these communities, you will have to have integrity. We are seeing a lot of people with no integrity right now. They're not in alignment with the general population. There's a lot of misalignment, and there's a lot of people moving from fear, but calling it love, which I find very fascinating. There's a lot of organizations that require money to run that promote fear-based ideology, us versus them ideology, and pretends to do it from a place of love. Those are the organizations that will eventually have a whiplash this year. It's going to be a very difficult year in 2026 for a lot of people, a lot of areas all over the world. All of us are in the frying pan this year. This is not necessarily a bad thing. The I Ching says that we are going to have heavy sacrifices, but it is from those sacrifices that we have the rapid change in technology, in healthcare, in AI, etc. What is really interesting is when you look at, for example, the time period right after World War II, nothing could ever be the same. Women were out of the house, they were working, they were contributing members of society. That shifted everything, and it continued to shift everything. This is the same kind of energy that's coming up where we are going to have exposure to a different way of being. Enough people will be exposed to that they will not want to go back to the old way. Systems that kept them in certain boxes in certain places will no longer be sustainable. And that is where the idea of heavy sacrifice comes in. The heavy sacrifice was at that time for what was perceived to be the greater good. And that will again play a role in this year. It doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to go out and there's war. That's just an example, right? That's not at all what I'm saying. The sacrifice could be maybe you're not shopping as much. Maybe you're not eating out. Maybe you're moving into a community where your family is sharing more of a home space than expecting that the young people go and get their first apartment away from home. These sacrifices are only sacrifices because we have created a mythology of sorts. You have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain way, you have to live a certain way. What part of that is true? That's really what we're looking at this year in 2026. Where are we out of sync with reality? You don't have to have your own house. Maybe we feel that it's nice because we've trained ourselves to think that way, but maybe it's not the only way to be, and that being in different ways could actually provide so much relief, so much joy, so much more love in our experience, so much less aloneness, frustration. When the I Ching gives warnings like heavy sacrifice or be careful of this and that, it's not that something is going to happen necessarily outside. It means to be careful of your own mind and what your perception of the world is, and how the perception is what can often create the suffering when it's not in alignment with reality, when you have a false reality. By the end of the year, it's going to be really good. It's the energy of ascendance. We are going to be growing into something really special and beautiful. That takes persistence and that takes dedication, which is so wild that we're in the year of the fire horse, because the fire horse is courage, it's stamina, it's diligence, that persistence, that dedication, that's energetically here to support all of the energetic movement. I'm very excited to see what this year is going to bring. I think the key highlights of this are, if you feel suffering, if you feel that you are suffering about something, take a step back from it, whatever it might be, and look and see if there's another way to understand or view the situation. When we understand that we have constructed our reality and our expectations, all the shoulds that we have in our lives on an ideology, every single one of us. That means that we can do a deconstruction and a reconstruction in something that's more in alignment with who we would like to be. Hopefully, who we would like to be is a person of high moral and ethical standards who is coming from a place of love and mindfulness. We want to be looking at, what are we absorbing? Are we looking at Instagram, Snapchat, if that's even still a thing, TikTok and Facebook? Are we allowing it to skew our reality? Or are we actually in the world with each other, having conversations that are meaningful and in ways that give a sense of lightness and well-being to each other? Things will need to change in the way that you're approaching the world, and it may feel like a sacrifice, but it doesn't have to, depending on your ideology, depending on the way that you think about things in the world. So, if you're willing to make changes to that ideology, if you're willing to make changes, these releases that we're going to be invited to have later in the year will not necessarily feel like sacrifices. They can feel like unburdening of something. Persistence, diligence is going to be really helpful in making changes. Let me give you an example that may help to make this seem less potentially scary. The year of the snake was shedding fears. The year of the fire horse is creating systems that will help you to move with rapid progress, with courage, intelligently. That's phenomenal. It's truly a gift. Let's take a minute and let's look at this from a perspective of someone who is a writer. So, obviously, I have written these books, right? 10 years ago, I had a dream about this book, and the characters came in. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And every year, I've tried to write a little bit more about this, and it's not working. It hasn't been working. So, one of the things that wasn't working is I held fears around it. And last year, those fears were challenged, and I was able to see the fear for what they were and how I was creating them for myself. This year, what has already happened is I released that in myself, this power structure of fear. My reality is that I can do the work. And it doesn't matter that I have never written a series of books before that are like paranormal romance. Who cares, right? The whole point is just to have fun with it and to write it. And so that's a very different state of being than I was last year and I was the years before this. What writing a book entails is sacrifice. I'm not outside playing around, having fun, going on picnics, doing all these things. I'm writing. There's a joy in that writing. This is what the prediction is showing us is it doesn't have to be this super intense, horrible, awful thing. On the smaller scale of our lives, it could be the clearing for us to do these projects, these dreams that we've held so closely for so long. Fear or frustration or whatever it might have been, all of that can clear. And you're diligently doing the work. But when you're opening one door to writing and you're sitting here in that commitment, it can feel like a sacrifice. It can feel heavy at times because you do have to show up every single day and do the writing. Otherwise, you lose the momentum, right? And that's the diligence of it. That's the stamina behind it. And that's what the fire horse can really, truly bring you. So if you wanted to be a creator on YouTube or whatever it is your dream is, this is the year that is going to just like supercharge and empower that. When you read a book like this and when you see some of the structures that we're moving through, it can sometimes sound terrifying, but that depends on the perspective because when you actually look at and you unpack it at the individual level, it's freeing, it's expansive. There's so much freedom that's possible in this year. There's so much creativity. And there's so much drive that will actually get you to the end so that you can finish those things that it is that you want to do in your life. And that is the beauty of 2026 Firehorse. I wish you all the best in all things. Know that I have your back because I go through every month on Substack the monthly energies. And I do it in a way that you can use that information as a tool to know when to move, when not to move. So in 2025, that information told you, I have to stop. I have to listen to the flow of the energy. I have to see who's around me. I have to see what I'm doing, how I'm moving in the world, and how it's repressing me in certain ways and keeping me stuck in a fear cycle. 2026, the tools are creating the structures that are necessary to thrive and balance because fire can burn you out. So, finding things that are also necessary for you to thrive in terms of allowing yourself to be centered and grounded. That's the joy of working with the predictions for 2026 of the I Ching. You can get a sense month by month of where you can move, where you need to stop, and how to use the energy to supercharge what it is that you desire in life. Boom! It's amazing! Yay! So stay tuned into the YouTube channel. Find me on Substack and let me know your thoughts. Let me know your dreams. Let me know your visions. And let me know how it is you need more support. Because that's part of what my purpose is on Substack. Not only to give you an identification of the themes, but also tools to support you through the movement of all the different energies. Because they're not always going to feel good, but they're always there in a way that helps you to understand how to move forward and how to do it in a way that is easeful, peaceful, and allows you to be in the moment just as it is without the torture of trying to place what your expectation is on a particular moment when it's not in alignment. So the freedom and movement of being with the world as it is any given moment of time. Have a great day, evening, night, morning, all the things.